Hey guys, Thrasher here, and we have the biggest update we've ever had in Dragon Ball Legends. Let's talk about it right now. Okay, so if you've ever seen any of my update videos in the past, generally what would happen is I would jump into the news area, we'd go through the news, I'd talk about some things, I would talk about what the news generally means, what it might mean for the future, but this update is so monstrously massive that would make this video extremely long, probably be hour and a half long, and I would still miss a ton of things. So what I'm gonna do instead is this video is actually gonna be a summoning video. So one of the things that happened with this update is we got our thank you celebration, and you're gonna get a bunch of tickets for however much you've spent in the past up to, I believe, November 1st. I believe I got 153 or 154 tickets. Like I said, I'm not a whale, I don't spend a ton. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna use those tickets, and I'm gonna talk about the high points of the entire update as a whole, what they might mean for the future, and then in future videos, so over the next 3 to 4 days, I'll talk about each specific area. So we'll talk about guilds at length, we'll talk about co-op at length, the hyperdimensional co-op, we'll talk about the star changes, and we'll talk about all of that, like I said, while I'm summoning here in a minute. So let's go over to menu and then go to summon, and we're gonna cover at a very minimal level all of those things right now, so you generally know what's going on, but they all definitely need their own videos. They're absolutely massive. The biggest one that we need to talk about is the star changes and how limit breaking works. So the big thing here is they've changed it so you still need 9,999 Z power to max a character. But rather than going from 0 to 7 stars, they now go from 0 to 7 stars at 3,000 Z power, and then the next 6,999 Z power will essentially get them up to 14 stars. Now, that's good and bad. I think it's probably going to be bad for the game in the long run. Let's make sure that we get all of these done before we actually do our tickets. In the long run, I think the way that works is you're going to have a lot of whales who are going to make sure that their characters are as maxed as they would have been before. They're going to get 8, 9,000, 10,000 Z power for a character, and those characters are essentially going to be 15 to 20% stronger than they are right now. So if you're a free-to-play player or you're someone who's a long-time player that doesn't really spend a lot of money, it's cool because, well, that's not good. It's cool because that means that a lot of your older characters are going to be much stronger now because they're probably a lot closer to 9,999 Z power. It actually makes them better than a lot of the newer units. In fact, it makes them better than most of the newer units, especially if you have the Goku that I saw at the beginning, or that I was showing off at the beginning of this video. The original Super Saiyan Red Goku is an absolute monster now with Zenkai Awakening once you get him at least to 3,000 Z power, and then if you get all of the added bonuses that take you up to 14 stars, or if you're fairly close to that, he's an absolute monster because of all of the stat increases that happen after you get past 7 stars. So that's cool, but if someone gets all of those bonuses on a new character, those characters are in an absolute league of their own. So for example, let's say that someone has a 2-star Super Vegito and they have a 7-star Hero Nail. That's one of the comparisons that I saw going around a lot this morning. The 7-star Hero Nail or the really old school 7-star Hero Piccolo are gonna actually have a higher power level than the Super Vegito will. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna beat the Super Vegito, but it's pretty crazy that you can have a super old hero unit that is stronger than some would consider the premier sparking unit in the game. Now, let's take that a step further and think about a brand new unit that comes out. You've got a brand new unit that comes out, and the average person will pull him once, maybe twice. So he's a 2, maybe 3-star unit. He's not going to be usable in comparison to these older units. But if you're a whale who can spend all the money on getting him up to 14 stars, 9,999 Z power, he is not only going to be better than the old units, he's going to be insanely better than the old units. You're talking 1, maybe 200,000 power level higher than pretty much anything else anyone can bring at this person. So if you have a whale if you have a whale in combat against you, you're just gonna lose if you're not a whale yourself, which is very unfortunate. Now, we're actually gonna do these celebration tickets that we got. Like I said, make sure you grab yours. They're probably in your gift box. And I'm hoping that I actually pull some of the older units because I would like to get them past 7 stars. So that's the big thing in my opinion, is getting your unit past 7 stars. Once you get them past 7 stars, they're actually really usable in PvP because they start getting those fairly quick stat boosts. Let's see if we get anything good here. Extreme Birder. And that's actually another team that some people have been sleeping on. You might want to consider running a Ginyu Force team again, because chances are a lot of people... What do we get here? Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. A lot of people have their Ginyu Force members fairly high starred before they were maybe 5, 6 stars, which means now they're probably 12, 13 stars, maybe even close to 14, which means they're going to be very strong units. I believe there's only like 3 units that can Zenkai boost right now. The Goku that Zenkai boosts and the Broly that Zenkai boost are absolute monsters. But I think we've covered the star changes at least a little bit. The one last thing we should probably talk about is the Zenkai ability that some units get. Essentially, it gives them a ton of attack and defensive abilities, makes them an absolute monster beyond the base stuff that I just talked about. Let's go ahead and move into guild stuff. So I'm actually going to post my guild my guild identifier, my tag, so you can actually find my guild. It's called Hey Guys, obviously. It will be in the description, in the very first comment. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna fill out all 30 slots or all 29 slots, because I'm obviously one of them. But the first 10, I'm gonna give away to the very first 10 people who actually go and find that down in the description and send me an invite. I probably won't accept them until tomorrow, just because I'm not really planning on looking at them. Okay, that's kind of cool. I think he would probably be a very strong unit if I can get him past 7 stars, which I think we're pretty close to. Wow, these pulls have been pretty good so far. Okay. It's crazy that I'm actually not mad about pulling a pan at this point. I'm actually pretty happy about it. I think that's going to get her... Let's see where she's at, actually. Okay, so Limit Break. Cool, Bulma. Cool. See, that's the one nice thing. I mean, there's a few nice things, but the one major nice thing to this is now I had this unit that was, I think she was 6-starred before, I'm pretty sure. Didn't really have any reason to pull more because I had to pull like 10 more pans before I would get her to 7 stars. Now there's incremental increases going from 6 all the way up to 7. The issue is that it's just such a huge boost now. It's crazy. What's this guy at? Okay, so he's 7-starred, which means that I believe I can not Zenkai Awaken him because it doesn't say so right here above his unique identifier DBL 0708S, but it does mean that if I pull another one, I'm gonna get a nice little HP boost, which is nice. Like I said, it is nice that there's incremental boosts now rather than that huge gap from 6 stars to 7 stars, and even the pretty big gap from 5 to 6. But again, that just means that the people who whale out super hard are gonna have an absolutely massive advantage. So, guilds. Like I said, there's going to be 10 people I'm going to accept. They'll be down in the description. Let's go into co-op, because guilds, I don't think there's too much to talk about right now, other than the fact that you're going to be able to do things in the guild, and it's going to work towards a reward that everyone gets. So you'll do regular missions, you'll do PvP, you'll do co-op, all of that. Now, the hyperdimensional co-op is super cool. I have messed with it a little bit. It's kind of just a button spam fest so far, but I think when they start adding the much harder events, it's gonna get to be really, really cool. And also, I don't think I understand it that well yet. I think I could generally explain it to someone, but there's a ton of nuances to it. I'm pretty sure that we'll be all picking up as a community over the next few days and weeks, and I will continue to play it and hopefully pick more up by the time I make that video. I think tomorrow's video will probably be on guilds because I think that's the most straightforward one, and we'll talk about that. And then the video after that will probably be on the star boost system and how the limit breaking has changed. And then the video after that will probably be hyperdimensional co-op, where we'll talk about it more in depth. But it is super cool. I like the fact that you can, okay, that's cool. I like the fact that you can essentially tank now. You have someone that holds aggro and will taunt the boss. That's super cool. I actually still play World of Warcraft, and I'm a main tank in World of Warcraft. So that resonates with me. That's super interesting in my opinion. And then the last major thing that we need to talk about outside of just standard update stuff, obviously the new celebration, and the new Ultra Spacetime banner that's here. The last thing that we really need to talk about is the changes to the combat system, and I'll have a full video on that as well. But essentially what they're doing is they're trying to make it far more aggressive. Like I said in the video where they talked about the basics of what they were thinking about doing in the future, if you stall out and you just sit at the back and you try to backfloat, you will actually start losing ki. And there's a few other penalties that you get as well. Okay, this one is definitely not a good summon either, but that first summon was fire, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's a lot of Krillins. So, like I said, they're going to heavily punish you if you're backfloating. The other thing they're doing is they're making it so that tackle actually works at long range, not just mid range, so that way if someone tries to backstep when you're tackling, they can't avoid it that way. They have to actually use their vanishing step, or they have to attack through it somehow. The other nice thing is if you do a tap blast when someone tries to tackle you, because one other thing you could try to do is step back and then tap blast to stop their tackle. Tackle actually beats a tap blast now. It just doesn't beat a strike card or a blast card. So that's just something to factor in, so that way the tackle is punishable, but not super punishable with something as easy as a backstep and a tap blast. Okay, I think what we're probably gonna do is we will maybe do one more multi-summon here, and then we'll save some tickets. I'll do more tomorrow or something. And after we finish these, we're gonna go look at the banner that came out, the Ultra Spacetime banner, and talk about that a little bit. So I'm not gonna do a standard review of the banner where I tell you what kind of a rating it would get. And the reason that I'm not going to do that is because of the change to the star system. So let's do one more consecutive summon. And that's simply because I don't think that it would be responsible of me to give you a rating on that, because the star system has changed so much. It's absolutely destroyed my tier list. I was hoping to have my tier list out in 2 to 3 days. There's just no way. They've changed essentially how powerful every single character is. Not only do we now have to factor in, ooh, does that mean I'm gonna get a new character? No, that one doesn't mean a new character. Okay, so not only have they changed how I need to rate things based off their kits and their synergies, I now need to rate units based on how easy it is to get their Z power. Because let's say that you have a unit like Super Vegito. He's an amazing unit. He's generally a top 5 unit, but it's very hard to get enough Z power to make him as good as, say, the old school red Super Saiyan Goku, who you can almost guaranteed get to 9,999 Z power, which means that technically he's probably a better unit. Now, if you can whale out, that's cool, go for Super Vegito, but that's something that you have to factor in. So I'm gonna have to really think about how the tier list is gonna work here in the future, but we'll get that all figured out. So let's go ahead and back out of here and let's talk about the banner. Okay, cool. And again, I do like the fact that I'm pulling units that I've pulled before, and normally I wouldn't really get any limit breaks on these. Now I'm getting tons of limit breaks. That's cool. I just think long term it's probably going to be negative, and I think they're going to have to refine the system. Let's go ahead and go back to summons and talk about this banner right here a little bit. So let's look at these featured characters. There's 2 new major characters that are here. The Bardock, which is cool, and then the Tapion, who is actually an insane unit. Now, here's the issue we're running into. Normally, I would say, obviously, you want to pull on this because Tapion is very powerful. I'll show you why in just a second when we look at his kit. The Bardock is okay, and then there's a few other good units that are in there. There's 2 new extremes that have come along, but the problem is that unless you pull multiple of these units, you're just not going to use them in PvP, because a 13, 14 star Goku is going to absolutely destroy your 2-star Tapion, or you know, a 10, 11 star the old red Super Saiyan Vegeta, pretty old Super Saiyan red Vegeta, will absolutely destroy this guy. So that's the issue. I'm not sure how they're planning to overcome the banner fatigue that we're going to get, because unless you're an absolute whale, there's no point in pulling on this Tapion, which I, in most cases, wouldn't tell you to pull on anyway, just because obviously it's an Ultra Spacetime banner. I would say get your tickets first and then spend at the very end. But that's beside the point that we're trying to make here. So let's go ahead and look at these characters. The Tapion and the Bardock are cool. The Goku is actually very good, because there's a good chance that you have him, say, up at 9, 10 stars, and if you can pull a few more, get him up to 12, 13, he can become an absolute monster. And that's kind of the case of all these guys down at the bottom here, and then this red Goku right here. So here's the issue that I was trying to illustrate, is obviously you have a couple good characters at the top, and now you have some quality characters at the bottom, and the issue is not so much that I can't figure out, okay, how good is this character, how good is this character? These characters are actually going to be better for you based on how much Z power you have for every single one of these characters. So for example, let's say that there was a 1% chance to pull this red Goku, and you had your Goku at, say, 8,000 Z power. This banner is actually going to be better for you than someone who, say, has this red Goku only at 2,000 Z power, because you're going to get almost a guaranteed limit break, and the other person, they're going to get a limit break, but they won't be able to Zenkai boost him yet, so he won't be scaling as hard. So that's one of the issues I'm trying to point out here. And then the other thing I want to point out is the Tapion that we talked about. Let's go back to that real quick and go to show details, and we're going to go over to ability, and I believe is it Proud Hero? Yeah, so check this out. So applies the following effect to self based on the number of battle members when this character enters the battlefield. 3 battle members, you get 40% to strike damage inflicted, cannot be canceled. 2 battle members, you get 40% to damage inflicted, cannot be canceled. So when you lose a battle member, rather than getting 40% to strike, you get 40% to all damage. And then when he's the last one, he restores his health by 25%, and he gets 50% to damage inflicted. Now that can't be canceled, so you can't have someone that comes in and uses an ability that gets rid of buffs. That'll stay there. It also doesn't say anything specifically about its stacking, but I think the way it works is when he leaves battle, that buff goes away, and when he comes into battle, he gets the buff related to whichever number of battle members are alive at the time. And then the other thing is it also reduces damage received by 15% when character Trunks is a battle member, and that also can't be canceled. So this guy's an absolute monster if you run him with a Trunks. The problem still though is the fact that he's only going to be 2 stars, 3 stars if you grab him. Even if you wail decently hard, he's going to be, 6 stars, maybe 7. He's still not going to be super strong in comparison to a lot of the older units, and especially the units that are at 13 or 14 stars and are Zenkai boosted. So that's really unfortunate. We'll have to see how they address that. Like I said, there's a ton more that went into this update, and I will make sure to make a specific video for each single one. Make sure to watch for those over the next 2 to 3 days. I might actually try to release a couple every single day just to get them out more quickly, so that way everyone's as up to date as quickly as they can be. But I also have to consider the fact that most of these are very, very new things, and while I may feel like I have 85 to 90% of it very, very well understood, there's still going to be a fair amount of nuance to these things, and that's why I'm going to take an extra day or two to make sure I understand them and I'm not putting out any information that's incorrect. But I'm hoping that you enjoyed the brief overview, you got a little bit of information out of it, and hopefully you enjoyed my summons where I had a really awesome one in the front, pretty decent one in the back, and a bunch of garbage in the middle, which I'm not going to complain about it. I'm getting to those 14 stars. And why don't you guys let me know what character you think is going to get Zenkai boosted next? Throw it down below. I think the blue Spirit Bomb Goku is probably the worst character in the game and has been for a long time. Obviously, the fact that most of us have him at 14 stars makes him a lot better now, but he still needs that Zenkai boost. Throw that down below. Let me know who you think you want it to be. And if you guys like this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.